Joining us today on the Everyman podcast is multi-instrumentalist and all-around everyman Eric Gillette. Eric is perhaps best known as part of the Neal Morse Band, who has a new album releasing on August 27th called Innocence and Danger on Inside Out Music. Progressive rock icons Neal Morse, Mike Portnoy, Randy George. If you don't know who Neal Morse Band is, checking this podcast out for the first time, you will by the end of it. And we're really excited to have him, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Gillette. Eric, what's up, brother?
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
This is great, man. And we were just chatting a little bit when we got started here, and I'm apparently coming to you live from some sort of tornado warning. So here in southeastern Pennsylvania, apparently it's Tornado Alley right now. So forgive us if you hear my tornado warning. Eric, first question I always ask, what's up? Where are you? What's going on, brother?
Oh, not much. I'm here in my studio in just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I live. And I just been working on composing for a sports show today, a show called Texas 6 that's on Paramount Plus. This is the second season. We were just talking about that a little off camera, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. And just kind of getting mentally prepared for being a dad for the second time. So next Friday,
Congrats, man.
Thank you. So yeah,
a girl.
Yeah, we have a girl already, so we're having a boy. So I think that's probably good. Maybe we'll call it there.
Best of both worlds, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
Next week?
Next Friday.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
So by the time this album drops, you'll be playing it for your newborn.
Yep. He'll be rocking out, I'm sure.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So I mentioned it at the beginning here. You and I were chatting a little bit. I am what you would call a progressive nerd. Okay. My first, my father is a musician. The first band I fell in love with as a young drummer was Yes. And I was obsessed with Yes all throughout middle school. And then I got into heavy music and I found out bands like Slipknot, which I want to talk about later, of course, and Dream Theater. And then once I found Dream Theater, it was kind of like game over as far as the idea of me ever being passionate about what you would consider mainstream or popular music.
Yeah.
But my whole life as a musician, I've been, the one listening to all the weird stuff with the keyboards and the crazy singing. I just can't get enough of it, And I'm watching, a Neal Morse Band video, and it's like, I think I've seen half these guys at a Dream Theater concert. Like, I feel like I know these people.
Yeah.
And what is your relationship to, progressive music? Like, did you grow up a prog fan? I mean, my first assumption after watching you play is like, well, how much Dream Theater did this kid listen to?
Yeah. Well, I did it at one point, but really my journey was kind of, I started early playing piano at 4. I took lessons for a few years, and then the rest was just self-taught. And then my aunt plays bluegrass music, and then just every time we'd come up here in Oklahoma, she'd hand me a different instrument to try and play and jam. And so I'd be playing a mandolin or a upright bass or a banjo or whatever. So I think that kind of started me early on, just getting familiar with other instruments and how to play multiple things, or at least fake it until you make it. And so then I kind of from there, I got into rock music and then metal. I was into Metallica for a real long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I just hadn't heard like Dream Theater or anything. And then one day a friend gave me a CD with, I think it had some Joe Satriani, some Steve Vai, and I think that was it. And then that led me to attend a G3 concert where John Petrucci was opening with Mike Portnoy on drums, Dave Lura on bass. And they came out playing Jaws of Life. First time I really heard a 7-string guitar that I could remember, or that I saw in person for sure. And it was heavy. And the drummer was hitting himself in the head and throwing sticks and doing all this crazy stuff. And I was like, immediately went home and looked up John Petrucci and found Dream Theater. And then it was like game over. The way you were describing that reminded me a lot of me, how I was uber nerd into all of their stuff. And then I would go to their concerts whenever they came through. And that's the short version.
It's funny how many, people I come in contact with at this stage of my life, they kind of have that same like winding path, and it's like if they didn't have a major 10 years of Dream Theater obsession, they at least passed through, you know, at one point or another. And you listen to so much of the modern, well, like first of all, I think progressive music and these like progressive metal bands have kind of crossed over into like a mainstream in a sense because of the online availability. But like bands like Polyphia and Chan, who are like, we love Between the Buried and Me. Dale and I, big BT Bam fans. We've had them on the pod, and I'm gonna go see them next week. I'm very excited, but they have a totally different audience. And one time Chan, they was on the tour, and it was like all these like young people and like girls, and it was like, what's going on here, you know? And come to find out, they're like super popular. So I think there is, you know, it's a little different now, but
more accessible. Yeah.
So, you know, my immediate question now, and we just had Jason Bittner on the podcast, and, you know, we're all close in age here. And Jason Bittner, when I was, you know, a high school age drummer, like he was super influential for me. And there was a handful of guys, Joey Jordison, who just passed away this week. Anybody around that age that was into metal drumming or heavy music was like super influenced by them. And then like you said, I saw Mike Portnoy, and I'm like, that's the reason why like I had this insanely huge drum kit, you know, lights. I had like, like the first person to have like drum lights on the East Coast, and like just over the top, and just the showmanship. And I remember seeing that for the first time up close, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And like the Budokan DVD, and be like, literally, I like at 15 years old, I'm like, I'm going to be him.
Yeah.
What's it like, you know, knowing that you have that respect and passion for them? Like, I'm watching you play with Neal Morse Band. It's like, we'll get to the Neal Morse in a second, but you're like playing with Mike Portnoy, and you're like, sometimes some of the music, it's very Dream Theater. I don't want to say influence, but it's Dream Theater adjacent.
Yeah.
What is that like growing up, being blown away as a fan, obsessed, you know, to a degree, and then like you're playing in a band with them?
Yeah, that's a weird one still. I mean, when I start to feel like it's normal, and then you know, I in an interview or something, I get asked about it, then it's like it snaps me back to reality, where it's like, wow, that is super crazy. And it did take a little bit, you know, being on stage and just looking back, and it's like, there he is. It's like, you know, like my drum hero, and I get to play in a band with him. He's my friend. It's like, it's just super crazy. I mean, because I was like we were talking about, I was going to the shows. I was in the pit. I was, you know, one show I went to, I think it was my 18th birthday. It was one of the best shows and best birthdays, because it was King's X, Joe Satriani, and Dream Theater. And I won pit tickets through Joe Satriani's forum online. And I caught a John Petrucci guitar pick, a Joe Satriani guitar pick, and Mike Portnoy pointed at me at one point, and I was like, okay, I can just, it was like
nice.
Epic. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just surreal, but I definitely don't take it for granted. I mean, it's just insane.
That's, you know, and by the way, Daryl's first concert was Dream Theater.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they let this giant toddler into the deep end like the first time. So
yeah.
Wow.
My mind's been blown ever since, and it's been more or less like this journey in the Cosmic Canoe has been like an intellectual exercise for prog metal and everything. And then we have you on, and it's like you're doing covers and you're playing all the instruments, bass, guitar, keyboard, you're singing, scoring now. I'm like, to me, it blows my mind, just because it relates to sport, like it's like you have certain players that, you know, they're good at one thing, right? And they make a whole career for that. And then it'd be like, then the Aaron Donald, like you'd be the Aaron Donald of like the NFL. Like he can do every pass rush move, and at the best level, you know, it's better than you've ever seen. So like, to me, like, how do you parse your...
I don't know. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I don't know how to mute my overall. There we go.
Oh yeah. So like, basically how do you parse like your mind and still like hit every instrument and be that great at them all? I mean, is it just time? I feel like there's you got a gift, obviously, but
thank
like
you.
how does that happen? Because like, I mean, I was only good at a couple things and that was my career, but like to be somebody like you where you're just good at all of those instruments, that full body of work just fascinates me.
I mean, I guess I would say it's just the time put in. I mean, because when I was 16 or maybe even younger, I would just be holed up in my room, just learning stuff, playing stuff for like 8 hours a day. And just like having I guess, a healthy obsession with music in general. And then also on top of that, being maybe to a fault, a perfectionist just overall in life, not just even musically. I'm trying to get better about that. But yeah, I don't know. I just have always had, no matter what the instrument is, I've always just had the urge to try to be the best I could at it, the best I could possibly be at it. And also, I love learning everything, not just, but specifically in music. So if there's something I don't know how to do, I'm pretty quick to try and figure it out. Or again, like I said before, at least learn enough of it where I can kind of fake my way through. Like, for instance, I'm not really a jazz guy. I love jazz. It's not a strength of mine, but I know a few things here and there that can make it a few licks where maybe it seems like I know a little bit about jazz, but probably I'm really just faking it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of the time, the hours put in, I think, and just being obsessed with music in general.
Cool. You said learning, and we have a saying in NFL films, we say lead with learning and curiosity, and it'll pretty much take you everywhere you want to be as a producer. I mean, are you still curious about things? Are there like instruments that you wish like, man, I wish I could play that. When I have some time, I'm going to learn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, violin is one, and I have one, but it's very difficult and it's unforgiving, and you have to be so precise because the fretboard is so small. There's no frets. I don't know why I said fretboard, because I'm a guitar player, I guess. But yeah, you have to be right on it. And when I have time, that's something I really want to try to get better at. I know that takes a really long time though, but I know enough that I can kind of do some very simple things which when I'm scoring comes in handy because I can just create textures and stuff with it. But yeah, and the cool thing about these days, as opposed to when I was growing up, like YouTube and everything, is just like, if you're curious, like you can know in 5 minutes, as opposed to if it was music oriented, I had to either like go to the store and like find a VHS of, for instance, John Petrucci's Rock Discipline, and those are awesome. And I did learn a lot from those things. And in fact, one of the things I learned a lot from musically in general, which is weird because it's a drum instructional DVD, but was Mike's, his Hudson Music one. Man, I watched that thing, I don't know how many times. And
you're talking about like the 3-disc one?
Yeah. And where he broke down counting odd meters and stuff like that.
I watched that like 1,000 times.
Yeah. To me, that opened my mental doors to to that sort of thing. Cause before that, things sounded complex. Maybe I didn't know how to count it. And he's just literally breaking it down. And so not just drumming, that DVD opened a lot for me. But yeah, I guess I say that to just say these days it's crazy how much you have at your fingertips to just like figure it out. You can do it in 5 minutes or so.
I got one more question, and then I'll let Brother Jay get back to it. I'm just geeking out real quick right now. We also have this saying called "the more that you can do in production." Mm-hmm. It makes for a better full from end to end process. Do you find it's like that in music too? Like the more instruments that you learn, the more musicality comes about. The more curative you can be.
Yeah, I do think that, and I think I get more inspired because if I'm trying something on guitar and I'm not feeling it, I'll just come over here to this synth or something and find inspiration there that might lead me back to a guitar thing, as opposed to if I just play guitar, I probably would hit the wall and be like, I got nothing. So it's nice to have all the things. And if I want to jump over to the real piano and have that spark something, I think it really does help and lead to more inspiration. But then on the note of doing multiple things and in production, that just made me think of, I'm also doing the post mix for the show. And I also do mixing, as you can see here. I mix albums, and post mixing is way different, but it's also very enjoyable. And I'm doing a lot of the sound effects work, and so really sound design. And I mean, also, I think it's kind of a job security thing. If you can offer more and kind of do it all in one spot, I think it makes you valuable than hiring, 5 or 6 different people. So, yeah, I don't know. And I always tell people these days, if you want to make a living in music, you kind of have to do more than just one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just the nature of the business, if there is one these days. I just say diversify, learn multiple instruments, learn how to record, learn post-production, and learn video editing. I mean, all those things have come in handy for me, because like, even with my cover videos, I mean, I film it all, I edit it all. It gets pretty confusing when you have multiple angles and instruments, and it's a lot to keep track of. So
watching, like, I struggled with just making drum videos, and like watching you do that as like, holy shit. And Daryl knows, we were talking about it today. I sent him one. He's like, so what, he plays everything? And I'm like, yeah, do the whole damn thing, and then like editing and engineering it and mixing it. Like it's really, it's incredible. And if you're listening to the audio version only of this podcast, I'm going to put some of Eric's YouTube links. Highly recommend checking that out. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, the links will be in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
The covers are crazy, and you have a wide, variety of styles. You're doing Itsy Bitsy Spider on one, and then Metallica on the next, and it's a lot of fun. And I wanted to just say, you brought up the Mike Portnoy DVD when we were talking to Jason Bittner last week. I was telling him how like that DVD and this Modern Drummer 04 Jason Bittner DVD like changed my life, because it put, like you're saying, it like educated me outside of the box that I was able to get at the time, because I'm of that age where I had the internet as a kid, but the internet was not what it is now by any means.
Right.
And like, I had to order that DVD from Sam Ash, and come calling every fucking Friday, like, hey, did you get my Mike Portnoy? And the guy, no, I still didn't get it, And then finally one day they call and they got it. And I'm like, Dad, we got to go to Sam Ash. And I got that thing, and I like sat behind my drums and had my big old TV turned, and just
nice.
That was like my summer,
Yeah.
And now it's like, I can just like, I'm like on my couch, like looking like a sea otter on its back, like with my phone, and just like, oh, Eric Gillette, it's like
crazy.
Right there. It's incredible. And you think about, we were talking about, I don't know if you remember the website, like drummerworld.com, and it's like little embedded videos. And whereas now, like, if you want to learn a technique, whether it's like video editing or sweep picking, like unbelievable, untold amounts, you can't even watch them all, of high quality, easily accessible and professionally done videos on anything with music. It's amazing.
It really is. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a course for anything, which is cool, but also I found myself, because I have, like I said, I like to learn, and it's like everything for some reason. I just like, but I think now there's every option available. So it's kind of like,
it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah. So now you don't even pick. So you might not learn anything because you can't pick one.
Like, I find myself like watching 5 different videos on how to caulk a tub, and just trying to get like.
That's another thing, is like being a homeowner is like,
oh yeah.
What would I have done? Gosh. I've been calling my dad every 5 minutes.
Dude, I asked my mom, I said, how did you do this? How did you do this without YouTube? She's like, you just went to the hardware store and you asked, and you did terrible at it,
Yeah.
It's being a homeowner. I don't know what I would do without YouTube.
2 words: carpenter bees.
Yeah, you need like a flamethrower or something for that, brother.
This is ridiculous.
Now, what are you like? You talked about time management and like spending time on it, and you know, there's a lot of musicians that listen to this podcast, a lot of people that are making content of their own. How do you manage balancing practicing your piano skills, your bass skills, your drum skills, you know, keeping your vocal chops up? Like, how do you balance all that?
First I would start with a piece of advice and be like, if you're younger, like do it now. Because once you start, and I'm lucky to be able to do this professionally, is that like I don't really have time to really practice like I would back in the day. Most of my, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Like I'm practicing while I'm doing it. Like for instance, like when I'm recording on our new album, I'm trying to push myself to do new things while I'm in the process of recording it. So it's not like I don't take a week and like, hey, I'm going to practice for a week and then record. It's just like, I don't have time to do that. You know, I have someone, you know, I'm mixing an album for, you got to like juggle lots of things, and I don't have time to sit around and just try to practice bass and get real good at bass. So a cool thing with these covers is that the making of the cover itself has kind of become, that's the practice. Is like, you know, before I record it, I have to quickly learn the part the best I can to try and match. You know, most of the time I'm trying to pay homage to the actual song, because I don't want to change too much unless it's like Itsy Bitsy Spider, and that's the whole point of it. It's like, you know, I'm trying to, and I see some people that are like, why just do a note for note? And it's not always note for note. I try to always throw in a little of my flair, but it's like, why do a note for note? Or it's just like, because I love, these are the songs I love, like through the Never by Metallica. I'm not going to go like try.
It's pretty good as it is.
Like, yeah,
absolutely.
Hang on,
pretty spot
Hetfield.
on.
Let me. I think maybe if you did it like this, you
exactly.
know, yeah, it's a little.
So it's like, that's why, because I want to.
You're paying homage.
Because I want to. And that's why.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's and the other thing is you just can't keep everyone happy, as we've learned. You know, there's always going to be detractors, but I'll tell you what. I'm watching you play and do all these things, and hearing you talk about it reminds me kind of how I approached it, because, you know, I took drumming very seriously, and I was taking lessons and wanted to pursue, you know, do the whole. I was to the point where I was like, I'm going to Berkeley. I'm going to start a band. Then I'm going to quit Berkeley. You know, like, I was like, I had the whole thing figured out. I had the whole Dream Theater thing worked out. Yep. And
meet your band there.
Exactly. That's where my guitar player is. And but I learned kind of how to play. My dad, you know, was a pastor and doing music in the church, and he was like, all of a sudden he needed a bass player. And I was like, I played a little guitar, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll figure out, I got a bass, I'll figure out how to do this. And I learned by, like, I love Rage Against the Machine. And I was like, you know what? That's probably a good place to try and figure this out. And you know, you buy the books, and same thing with guitar. Then it turned into, like, you know, Metallica and System of a Down, and like that is how I was able to get a little bit of that building block. And you're talking about being able to do a lot of things, and from a band perspective, having just a base knowledge of the other components of the band allows you to communicate.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's,
you know, and get to the conclusion. Like, if you can speak their language and then translate what they want, it makes you more valuable. Like, that was like when I was playing as a drummer for other people, as like a hired guy. Benefited me that I could speak a guitar player's language, even if I couldn't really play what he was playing.
Yeah, and the same goes for me. Is music theory is great to know, but I think it's, for me, it has proven itself to be more effective as a language tool, to be able to say somewhat, to, you know, like, oh, that Lydian part, you know, or the, you know, or explain a chord, and just to be able to communicate in real time. And like, I think that's kind of priceless to have, even if it's just a basic kind of knowledge of all that. I don't think, you know, I went to a small community college and majored in recording engineering and music, and there was people there that could like sight read circles around me, but like when it comes to like a solo section, it's like, it's not on the paper, so kind of get lost. So I think at that point, it's more valuable to have a really good ear and be able to improvise. But yeah, again, I just think knowing other instruments and knowing some theory is a great way to be able to talk to your band, or if you're, you know, filling in or subbing a gig or something, it makes you that much more valuable, I think.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man. But obviously you're excellent at everything you do, and your guitar playing speaks for itself. But I think my favorite tool of yours, I think your vocals are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And your singing, like, especially because I hadn't really watched Neal Morse Band perform with my eyes. I had only just listened to the records. And as I was listening to, you know, shout out to Inside Out, they generously provided us a review copy of the new record, which is, I don't want to say too much. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you, man.
There's some crazy shit going on that second disc I want to talk about.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Danger.
Very dangerous. Highly dangerous.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much of the vocals in Neal Morse Band that you were doing and how much of a lead vocalist you are. And then I'm watching you do your harmonies, and I was like joking around with my fiance. I was like, God, this guy, you know, like fucking, he's great at everything. He's like, you know, like, this is crazy. Are you thinking, like, is that something you want to pursue, spending more time as like a vocal frontman? Do you consider yourself a singer?
I do. You know, I have 2 solo albums where I am the lead singer, and I do enjoy it, and I'm loving doing these covers, trying to, like, you know, pay homage to these, but still, you know, it's still my voice. I can't only morph it so much. So that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I think I came to sing. I always sang, but I think as far as being a lead singer, I came to that kind of later in life, in my late 20s, kind of, or at least got more comfortable with it.
It's a confidence thing, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And finding your voice and exploring it and finding what it can do and where your limits are. And then what is a continual learning process is, like, when you're touring is a whole different thing. It's like you listen to these long albums that we go play, or at least our last 2 tours, we played our concept album start to finish, like 2.5-hour show plus an encore.
Nice.
And it's like finding the stamina in your voice to not blow it out. You know, sometimes we have 7 shows in a row, which is brutal. And me and Bill, our keyboard player, always use the analogy of, like, you start each show with a certain amount of gas in your tank, and it's like you pick your moments. Like, this high note here, I know that's probably going to deplete me 15%. And you find places, like maybe on some harmonies where you're just singing ahs or something, where you can be falsetto voice and save it. So that's a whole nother thing that I've had to learn, because you get excited, you know, probably a lot like sports, where you could go out and blow a knee or something if you just kind of go for it too hard, or same thing with the voice. You get excited, and, you know, by the 3rd song, you're like, your voice is cracking. And so that's been a whole nother thing. But yeah, I mean, I do consider myself a vocalist. I love doing it. And I feel like I'm still discovering, you know, what I can do, what my strengths are, and how to do it more efficiently. I've never really had any formal vocal training, so it's just kind of a lot of it's been like with these covers, where I'm just listening and singing along, or trying to figure out how, you know, like trying to sing like a Chris Cornell song is like, how does he do that? Like, just the tone and hitting notes and like vocal compression, like where I've been experimenting with that the last couple of years. Someone like Devin Townsend is like,
I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah.
It's like you hear him do something. The first time I was just like, is there blood coming out of his voice? Like, I mean, it's incredible, but he can do it. It's just a certain way you can do it without destroying your vocal cords. And that fascinates me. And I'm still kind of going down that rabbit hole.
He's a tier 1 special human, I think.
Oh yeah. He might not even be a human.
Right. Like, if somebody told me, like, actually he's not a human, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not surprised.
Sounds about right.
And then, like, I'm a big prog guy, and, you know, I've been following around bands like Between the Buried and Me for years before I knew him, and I would see some opening bands. And I remember the first time I saw Devin Townsend, you know, or heard about him, it was like 2006. He was just coming back to the music scene and doing DTP, and I saw him like this big dude with this weird look, super pale, and like this weird suit. And then I'm like, this is gonna be whack, you know?
Yeah.
And then he proceeded to blow my mind. And it's like, not only like I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that I've seen like sing the way he sings and also play guitar, like some of the lead parts, like the arpeggiated solos he's playing. Like there's a song Numbered, I'm sure you know it, and he's like doing this crazy 7-string arpeggio sweep while singing like a tenor part, and you're like, and then he does it live and it happens for real, and it's like, man, this guy must be exhausted after a performance. Like I don't know how he does that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, like I said, I think there's some things people do that are just like, maybe I'm sure he could break it down for you, but like some people just do it and they don't know exactly what they're doing, but there's certain things you can do with your voice. I think maybe not every human's capable of it. I don't know, but
I feel like he's got like extra long vocal cords or something.
Got, like there's another pair back there or something.
Right, right. There's got to be some physical thing going on there.
Yeah.
And then when you see him, you know, live, he's like giving everything he's got. Every time I've seen them probably a dozen times. It's like everything he's got. And one of these days he'll be here on the Cosmic Canoe with us. I'm sure we'll make it happen one way or another. But so Neal Morse Band. Now, how did you find yourself playing with Neal and, you know, taking on this role is not just, you know, you're like I said, almost like a co-vocalist, you know, in a lot of music. How did all this happen?
Well, long story short would be, well, I'll just start with saying, you know, through Mike is how I kind of discovered Neal back. I forget what year it would have been, but I got his, I think I found out about it on Mike's forum, and he said he was promoting the Testimony DVD from Neal. And I was like, oh, I'll check it out. I think there was a clip and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I'll get it. And I think I asked for it for Christmas and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And, you know, at that point I was more into the, I guess, progressive metal of like Dream Theater, and Neal has a lot more of the kind of a classic prog, you know, woven in there. And I thought that was neat. I hadn't really gone down that classic prog trail. And so I was familiar with them, and then years went by and I don't know what made me check, but it was one of those deals where I was like, oh, I remembered. I was like, oh, that Neal Morse guy, what's he up to? And I like looked him up on Twitter, and like the most recent post was like holding open auditions for my touring solo band. And I was like, I'll check the date. And it was like within the week, I was like, and instantly without even thinking, I was like, I'm doing that. And so I downloaded the songs and learned them and did my video. And to make me, I guess, to kind of stand out, I did one on keyboards and one on guitar. And then I got called to Nashville to do an in-person audition and got the gig and toured with him in his solo group that he put together for a while. And also along with that came Bill Hubauer, who's the keyboardist in Neal Morse Band. And so after touring for a while and just kind of getting to know everybody, and everyone was meshing, and we, you know, just meshed well on stage as well as personally. And we just decided, like, what if we made this like a band, the Neal Morse Band, and wrote, like, let's get together at his studio and like, let's just get in a room and write, like old school, how people used to do it. And that's what we did. And The Grand Experiment, that's the first album we did. And the rest is history. And yeah, just along the way, you know, I think we all did find like your little piece of the pie in the band, like where your strengths are. And the sharing of the vocals was a cool thing that I think even from the get-go was kind of unique to our band. I mean, there's lots of bands that have lots of vocalists, but you know, Bill sings a lot of lead on parts too. And then we have our 3 and sometimes 4-part harmonies going along when we get Mike singing back there. And it's just really cool. And yeah, it's quite the story on how it came to be. But I mean, I guess with most things these days, it's thanks to the internet, I guess I gotta say.
That's
Wild.
amazing, man. That's the
Pretty
Cosmic
wild.
Canoe right there. That's it's funny. It's like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And just having the confidence in yourself to try and put yourself out there. When it can seem intimidating, and I can attest that this the music industry is a lot smaller than I think people realize from the outside.
Yeah.
And especially when you're younger and you're coming up, it seems like it's one thing, and then you get out to NAM, and if you can, it's a good place to start networking and meeting people and finding out what's going on and what kind of opportunities there are, and putting yourself in those kind of environments. It's like everybody knows 5 people that it's like, you know what I mean? And that's, so many musicians we've had on the show, Daryl, it's about being a cool dude or a girl and having a good time, treating people right, and being prepared. Like if there's 10, and this is not a shot at you, and you would agree, I'm sure, like there are tons of talented guitar players on YouTube.
And I always kind of say that, like just kids that can play faster than me. And it's like, so like, I always try to just, whatever your instrument is, like try to make it your own, or at least have a sound or develop something that's you, because I don't have a super big interest in just like being the fastest player. Like I'd rather play a soulful, soaring, like melody that, gives you goosebumps or something. Like I'm more interested in that sort of stuff. And of course I do a lot of fast stuff. It's like a lot of, the people I listen to and that are kind of ingrained in me did that. And I enjoy that, but I just think, that's a good point, that there's so much talent out there. And again, with the internet, it's like, you could just reach out to someone in a comment and they could respond and you could connect with somebody. It's crazy these days. And yeah.
And it could be anyone, but the things that separate you, are how you interact and what kind of quality character you are.
And I always say, when you go on tour, like if you're looking for a touring group or a band you would go on tour with, like you're just hanging out far more than you are playing. You play music for 2 hours and then you're together the other hours of the day. It's like, you got to be a good hang or no one's going to want to have you around.
Right. You're traveling to wait.
Yeah, exactly. Hurry up and wait. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And, it's always different personalities and just things are going to, you just got to learn how to mesh and just go with the flow and be cool. I mean, that's how I am in the Neal Morse Band, and anything I really do, I try to just be laid back and go with the flow, because it'll all work out.
I want to just rewind just a little bit here. That one thing you mentioned about seeing that, opportunity and taking it to be a part of an MB. And it's something I want to point out to a lot of young people that don't understand this, but a lot of young individuals have, a hard time with that confidence piece, that being creative in the midst of, an opportunity like that. I see it all the time in the production industry. And, I don't know if you can speak to that, but the fact that you not only just did your video, but you did it in 2 different ways to make yourself stand out. To me, I would equate that to like almost like the opportunity to shoot out a cover letter or something. To me, that's your opportunity to be creative, to be you, to give an employer something more than what they would just naturally see that's regurgitated off of Wikipedia or online. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
How important is that creativity piece when it comes to landing an extra opportunity?
I think it's crucial. I mean, there's I just go back to what he was saying, is there's so many great players, and I know that, and it's like, there's a ton of players that could play this stuff. So it seemed like for me, it was kind of a subconscious decision. I think I was driving, listening to the song, and I just remember liking the keyboard parts, and I just thought, I'll do it on keyboard. And then I just made the decision. And then it was after that I kind of thought, oh, that'll help me kind of stand out maybe. And I'm glad I did. And I think that all goes back to all the hours and stuff I put in honing my craft on, when I was younger. And that obviously helps have the confidence. But I'll also say I kind of just blindly made the commitment to myself because I knew, I mean, you don't get that opportunity all the time. I mean, someone like Neal, or I'm trying to equate it to anyone else, it'd be like Devin Townsend being like, hey, open auditions, send your videos. Like, that's what I equated to. And it's like, you just gotta, I'm doing it. Even though in my head, I'm like, can I do it? Like, there's still that little thing, but you just got to tell it to shut up and have the courage to know you can, if you just take your time and like focus. And I mean, it's not something it's a 12-minute song. I think it's like, you're not going to just instantly know it. It's going to take, you got to put your time in and be patient. And
it's a little bit dense.
Yeah, a little dense. But also then there's the whole deadline thing, because I don't remember how far out it was, but I've learned in my age now and what I'm doing, like I work pretty well with the deadline. I almost need one, or otherwise I'm just gonna like chill too long. And there's not that sense of urgency. Like with the television show with Paramount, it's like we have deadlines, and it's like there's an air date. Like if I'm not ready, it's like it's all on me. Everyone's gonna be looking at me. Why is it not ready? So same thing with an album release date. And you got the record label's going to be asking, where's the masters? And we got to deliver to Rich, our mixing engineer, he needs enough time to mix it, to have it delivered. So it's like all these things I think are positive things. It just pushes you. But within that pressure, like when you're recording an album, it's like, you don't want to just, pipe it out real quick, just whatever. You still want to do your best in that time you have. I don't know. I feel like maybe it just takes a lot of that. Maybe you need to do it repetition, but for me, I tend to do pretty well with the hard deadline. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
no,
I'm the same way.
No tangent. It's just I just think that's important for young people to hear. Someone like yourself and you have fans, people who look up to you online, everywhere. Everybody's watching. This. Yeah. But if a young person who's in the they're musically want to be inclined, and they hear that you are, to me, an unbelievable just person, human being, period, say that, what, even I think like, sometimes you got an audition, like, can I do it? And you can play like any freaking, what I mean? Like that to me, like that.
It's all the time. I mean, that doesn't go away. I think if anyone ever told you they'd never have doubt about their abilities on something, I mean, there might be a few in the world, but I think most of that's crap, if I'm being honest. I'll use an example. When my drum hero, Mike, reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to play all John Petrucci's parts on my Shattered Fortress tour? I just wrote back an email. I thought my first thought was yes. And I wrote yes, of course, and fired the email, and I was already committed. Because if I had stopped and been like, just the Glass Prison arpeggios alone, I would have been like, I can't do this. Like, I probably would have come up with some excuse. So I think I knew in my head, like, just send it off. Like, of course you're going to do that. Like, well, that's crazy opportunity as well. It's like, you just commit, even though you aren't sure you can do it, but you feel like maybe somewhere deep inside you can. I don't know. There's a conflicting thing there, but I found sometimes when I commit myself to something I feel like is outside of my wheelhouse, I mean, that's how you get better. If I didn't did that, I wouldn't be any better. If I didn't listen to my old recordings and cringe a little bit, there would have been no growth. So I've learned to like the cringing a little bit, because that means I must have gone past that line a little bit, at least I hope.
Yeah, I would think that challenging yourself with something like covering John Petrucci note for note to a rabid pack of Dream Theater fans, like imagine the level of Dream Theater fan that's going to see the Shattered Fortress, live on a cruise ship. That was the cruise ship one tour.
That was the first show we did, and then we did a European run after that, and some other South America and Mexico. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because not only is it tough to do, that's the tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, again, I'm not gonna, oh, hey, John, I think you should have done this on this solo. Like, no, I'm gonna play the part.
Right. There's no need to
possible.
There's no need to push it.
No, yeah, this is not a time for for me to like put my stamp on something. Like, no, I'm trying to honor that part to these parts that I grew up driving around in my car, like obsessing over.
I used to have a rule that I didn't get out of the car if it was the middle of a John Petrucci solo. I have to let it play all the way out.
I thought you were gonna say a whole song. I was like, oh boy.
No, you just can't interrupt the solo. You gotta let it ride. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I wanna talk a little bit more about Neal Morse Band and this new record. So again, 2 discs, available August 27th, everywhere music is sold.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into the name. I don't even know what I'm allowed to say. I'm just going to say how much I enjoyed it. And I'll speak in general terms here. But there's a track on the second disc that it's quite long. It's a healthy length. and about halfway through it, there's about 2 minutes, 45 seconds of like, I told Daryl, I said, this might be the best shit I've heard in about a year. I mean, for real.
Thank you.
And I know that's a weird way to put it, but when you say, you know, soaring guitar solos and just, it's fast but it's soulful, that like blew me away. And I had to rewind it a few times and really absorb it. And again, you know, as a student of the Dream Theater tree, and my immediate reaction is like, wow, he loves John Petrucci too, you know? And like I hear the influence there, but I also hear, like you're saying, you have your own feel that's unique to yours. And there's a more, I don't want to say bluesy, but there's like, I can tell there's a soul there. And we were talking before about, you know, bluegrass, and now it's making sense why there's that kind of country feeling that I get in there that's a little different than the typical Berkeley Northeast shredder influenced guitarists that are out there. They're also great.
Oh yeah.
And that's like, again, watching your covers, you can see that you're doing Keith Urban, and you're doing, you know, Journey, and I want to talk about that Journey thing for a second. I make a quick side route here. That Separate Ways cover. Separate Ways is my favorite, without a doubt, favorite Journey song. Yeah. And I've always thought that song was stupid heavy. And my friends were always like, dude, this isn't heavy. I'm like, no, listen to the guitar. That bow, 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 bow. It's like so heavy. And then hearing how, you know, you mentioned, it's note for note, but you put your own flair on it. And I heard how you kind of chugged it up a little bit. I was like, see, he gets it. He knows how heavy this song is.
Oh yeah. I think they live in Manila, I think.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like, man, this is slamming. Like, and I've
Neal
always
Sean.
Oh yeah.
Insane.
Same play.
I saw that in because he's an Axe FX guy.
Oh yeah.
And his tone, I remember seeing that video on like, do you remember like Access TV? I don't think it's still on there, but like they would play like soccer matches.
Oh yeah.
Japanese wrestling, and then like concerts. It was awesome.
I'm trying to figure out where I saw it, but that's for sure where it was.
Yeah, for me, those are like 2 of my big 3 right there. So, you know, I was always on Axis, and I would just have it on in the background. And that Journey concert came on the Live in Manila, and I was like, "Geez, Neal Sean, your tone is bananas."
Also, on that concert, did you see Dean Castronova singing "Mother Father"?
Oh yeah.
Oof, I like get chills right now thinking about it. That dude can sing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Insane.
Yeah, that's those are legends, pros. Yeah. But anyway, seeing you kind of dance in that pool a little bit, I get where your inspiration comes from as a player. But this record's crazy. What do you think of it, Daryl?
I think, in the words of Gwen Stefani's song, or I should say one word, it's BANANAS. It's pretty much what it is in a word.
It's crazy.
I'll take that.
And it's like, if you're a Dream Theater fan and you're listening to this podcast because you're here because you've listened to the Mike Mangini pods or the Petrucci pods, and you're like, you know, I've never been interested in Neal Morse. Let me tell you something. It's like, this reminded me of Octavarium, which is my favorite. My favorite Dream Theater album. This reminded me a lot of not only that song, but the whole album, you know? So if you're into that, check it out. So there's, like you said, there's that prog, classic prog, you know, Kansas, yes.
Yeah.
The theatrics of maybe Genesis a little bit in there, which I think is awesome. by the way, I love the headset mic. I think that's a super practical thing.
Oh, it is very practical.
And like he's owning it, and he's like bringing it back. And I hope that other multi-instrumentalists follow Neal Morse's lead and return to the headset mic. I think it's like if I was doing it, that's what I would be doing.
It's purely, I think it was purely for his, just to have freedom to roam, and to like, sometimes on our concept albums we were performing, he would have to sing a part while picking up a guitar after playing a keyboard line.
Right. You can't do that.
Like, you can't do that with.
Yeah, you need freedom.
Yeah. So, and then also when he can go out to the front and walk around and like really perform, which is those albums really lent themselves to the theatrics. So I think it worked perfect for that. And now he's just kind of like,
it's like
up to it. Yeah.
It's over the top in the best way. Like it's entertaining, and it's like, and you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So it's just a weird observation I had, but it's also got, and I think it's kind of you and Portnoy there. It's got some of that heavy influence that's in there, a little bit of the chug chug, not as much as like what you would hear in BT Bam or Dream Theater, but it's there. So if you're into the prog metal end of it, or you're just into the prog end of it, I don't know how anybody could not enjoy that record.
Well, thanks for the plug. I appreciate that.
Oh
yeah. It's next level. And I was looking at the tour dates, and I was like, oh, when they got to be coming to Philly? And I'm like, it's right. It's the week of my wedding.
Oh no!
I'll have to try and sneak out if I can get permission. I think I'll be there.
Holler at me if you do. That would be awesome.
I will absolutely.
Are we at the Keswick? I think.
Yeah, Keswick. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
That's
right.
cool.
It's right down the street. Yeah, it's like I think it's the 19th, and our wedding's a couple days after. So I think I might be able to swing it.
Just get a lot of stuff done before.
Right. Yeah. Everything will be packed up. I got to go hang out with the boys. Yeah. That's another thing that I've grown up to in my older age find hilarious is I'm watching the Neal Morse Band live 2019 tour, whatever it is, and I'm like, let's play Find the Lady in the audience. Not a whole lot of ladies in here. And then you see the occasional wife. Like there was one lady in the one video, she was just like this. Yeah.
We get some guys that do that too, just right in front of you while you're playing your heart out, playing a solo, and it's just like
they're giving you nothing.
Be interesting.
Yeah. What's it like kind of having that? Sometimes people end up at your show that really don't want to be there.
Well,
you know what I mean? And I mean,
I know exactly what you mean. And it happens I'm sure it happens in other styles too. Like a husband being drugged to a musical or something, maybe. I don't know. First thing I thought of. He's nodding. Yep. There's been some musicals I like, but there's some that I like. So I get it, but as a performer, it can take you out of it if you let it. So it's like, I don't know, just if you see it, you just gotta
don't stare in the eyes.
Yeah, look at the group as a whole. Yeah, don't look them in the eyes.
I would just look right into their soul.
On that note, I don't know, it wasn't the last tour, it was the tour before. And I don't know how many shows it happened, but right in front of me, maybe 4 or 5 shows, a person fell asleep.
Wow.
A different person in multiple cities, and always in front of me when I'm like starting to get a little complex here. And so Mike and me had kind of a running joke of if he spotted it or I spotted it, it'd just be like, you kidding me again? So, which is crazy because I know
you might have a health problem if you can sleep at a concert like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially
even with earplugs. I mean, like we have some loud moments. I mean, there's times where we've been told our sound guy should probably keep it down a little, but I'm like, I can't. How do you sleep through that? But those things can be distractions. But I don't know. You try to look past it, but sometimes it's just funny.
Yeah, the prog audience is always a variety, and I've always
for sure.
I liken it to obviously, as you can see behind me, my lucha mask and my title belt. I'm a big professional wrestling fan, and I've always seen a similarity between the hardcore pro wrestling fan and the prog fan. Like they know the thing they love is widely considered weird. They don't care. And we're here in our cargo shorts. Let's go.
Cargo shorts and band t-shirt.
Hell yeah, man. That was my uniform from like 15 to 22, 23.
Comfy.
Yeah, it works, man. I got
breathable.
I've got
breathable attire.
So many black band t-shirts. It's
Yeah.
it's astounding. So
Yeah.
what are some of the bands that you're, you know, into? Maybe not necessarily like stuff that inspires you, but is there anything that you're like for example, I got really into the latest St. Vincent record. She's somebody that I didn't really know about, and a buddy of mine was like, "Yo, you got to check this record out. It's crazy." And then I like fell down the St. Vincent rabbit hole. And Daryl, you got to check her out. She's super super talented. Um, anything that maybe might surprise people to hear you've been enjoying?
Man, if I'm honest, I've been in kind of a. It's like I'm to the point now where I'd like to start acquiring things like suggestions like that, so I can have a list of stuff that I can go check out. Because we have like a almost 2-year-old toddler at home, and I work here, and when I get in the car after mixing an album or recording, usually I want my ears to have a break, so I either don't listen to anything or I listen to a podcast. So really lately I'm super behind on anything fresh or new, which sucks, but it's just kind of how this job goes for me. It's like, I mean, I do audio all day, pretty much every day that I can. And it's just like, usually my ears are tired after. So it's like, I don't have a lot of new stuff. And usually I'm having to prepare for the next project, whether it be like I'm scoring this show, like I'm listening to a lot of temp score stuff, trying to get familiar with like what the vibe should be. Like I got a dobro over there, like trying to, when I have little snippets of time, like I just got a harmonica. I'm not really a harmonica player, but
harmonica's like way hard to play.
It's strangely hard to play. Like, and I'm trying to figure out how to bend notes.
It's because it's so small.
Like, yeah.
I think if I had a comically large harmonica, I could do much better with it. Yeah. But I really tried to I just couldn't do it.
It's tough. And even with YouTube videos, it's like, wow, that's hard. But yeah, so I say all that to say, man, I'm not super up with a bunch of new music, which I wish I was, but it's just kind of how my life has been the past couple of years.
I hear you, man.
I'll tell you what, St. Vincent.
Check out St. Vincent. I think knowing that you're an audio engineer kind of guy, the way they recorded that's really very retro inspired, very 70s feel.
Cool.
Lots of cool effects. But sweet. I'll tell you, I've been listening to that, Wilson Pickett, and a lot of Slipknot this week. But
wow.
Yeah, Wilson Pickett. So I love going back and like, because I got and we got a new Jeep and it's got Sirius in it. So I'm just listening to the whatever it's called, like Groove or something. Mm-hmm. It's just like 70s and 80s funk and awesome. R&B. And I just listen because I have a hectic job and I drive, like you're saying, I drive home and I listen to that. Mm-hmm. And the grooves, like I feel like all of the good grooves were already written by, like there's nothing left. But
dude, that's the whole thing with composing is like you have a blank canvas and it's like there's only 12 notes. It's like, how am I gonna do something different? But you tend to think, I mean, it's the same with writing an album, I guess. It's like there's only so many notes. It's like, how are we gonna do something new that's fresh? Somehow you end up doing it, but there's always that moment of kind of, it's not writer's block, it's just a freak out of a blank Pro Tools session, and it's like,
yeah,
what do I even start with? Like, it's crazy.
I've been going through that, trying my best to do my Daryl impression editing videos, and it's like I have a shitload of video here and I don't know where to start or how I have no ending. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, the blank slate feeling is absolutely real. Mm-hmm. What's kind of on your plate to get ready to tour? We've been talking to a lot of musicians that are getting ready to go back on the road for the first time in mm-hmm. nearly 2 years here. So are you doing any sort of extra physical prep or mental prep? Like what's your pre-tour routine like right now?
What it is right now is, well, first off, I got a new Axe FX3 rig. So I just got that last week. So I'm going to start getting things kind of dialed in, and then I got to start building patches. That's a whole nother thing. It's like, it's been so long since we recorded it that I'm going to have to like relearn my own parts, which is always super weird. I mean, I've learned so many other guitar players' parts. That's different, but it's like listening to myself and like pausing it, like, what did I just play there? Like, that's good because I mean, I pushed myself, I guess, if it's not something I just do instinctually. But I like to listen a whole lot before I pick up a guitar and like try and play it through, because I mean, it's different when it's your own music because you wrote, you co-wrote it with your band. So I pretty much know what's coming up next. But if it were to be a song I'm not familiar with, I guess I would say half of the deal is like knowing what's the next part. Like, especially when you play these long 30-minute songs, it's like, what's the next section? Like, if you don't even know what the section is, you're definitely not going to know how to play it. So just mentally like knowing the song in and out. And then I'll go in and I'll work on all the parts. And then I'll work on playing them without stopping. And then I work on, and it sounds like a lot of work because it is, but another thing maybe a lot of people don't think of, and I thought about it earlier when we were talking about the headset and stuff, and when you're talking about Devin Townsend, is like the physicality of singing a high note, doing a high run, like lead, singing a high note, doing a patch switch. Like there's all these things. It's almost like it's like a choreographed dance that you got to hit. You got to switch to the next patch right after, roll off your volume. Like at some point that becomes muscle memory, but I like to, when it comes to like the week before, I'll set up like my mic stand with a 58. I'll put in my in-ears, I'll get a good mix, and I'll play through the show like it's the show, standing up, because that's how I'm going to be. I don't want to be sitting down, and then there's just things you do different when you're standing up, and I just want it to be close. I don't want to be thinking about some step I got to do. I just want to be playing the music, and then because it's so much more enjoyable when all that stuff is just kind of programmed in you. It's like now I can just present the music and have fun. Like, so it's definitely a multi-step process, but and I don't know if I've got it figured out exactly, but that's kind of the steps I normally go through.
Nice.
And I guess by the time you step on stage for the first time, you're a little jazzed either way.
Yeah.
And then once you finish the show, you're like, still got it.
Well, it also helps that, well, I forget, what's the saying we say? Like, I think it came from Neal, had an old piano teacher that used to say, when you get on stage, you lose half. So meaning if you prepare 100%, when you walk on stage, you're now at 50%, because it could be that you're too amped. It could be that you're overwhelmed by the crowd. Maybe there's a sleeping person and that's taking you out of it. There could be all these things so we always try, or at least I always try, and I know the other guys do too, but to prepare like well over, to the point where it's second nature. It's all muscle memory, because there's just so many variables when you go on a stage. It's like, you don't want there to be, but there usually is stuff that can take you out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's the same thing like playing in the NFL. You got a lot of people in the stadium, but then that one crazy person says something ridiculous to you, and you're like,
you can hear exactly what they say.
Put a corn cob where? What is this? Like.
Well, my defensive line coach, Michael Sinclair, longtime pass rush, like phenom for the Seattle Seahawks, he used to always say it's hard enough to go into a game and be successful trying to do everything right. Like that's why preparation is so like key. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because if something goes wrong and you're not like fully prepared, or you haven't put that time in, kind of like what you were saying, Eric, like you like you said, you want to get out there to it's just muscle memory. You can present it. My wife is a chef. She always says this too. Like it's all about presentation. So yeah.
And it's weird that, and I've thought this before today, that there's a lot of similarities in sports and music in the sense of like kind of what we're talking about, the preparation and because when we're playing a show and like there's no stopping, and it's like there's a lot of pressure, and it's like you don't want to miss anything, and you're just trying to be at 100%. I don't know, it just reminds me a lot of sports and the preparation and years of honing your craft that have to go into that.
Well, it's funny because when Daryl and I first met and we started to get to know each other, and we were just sharing stories, we were mutually interested in each other's craft, from like a sense of wonderment, speaking for myself, like just like as a big football fan, like how do you do this? And Daryl having the same questions about drumming. And that was one of the things that bonded us was like, man, we're like in the same business here, aren't we? You know, like it's a lot of the ups and the downs, the treatment, the great lengths that you have to go to master your craft, the many long drives with no money to, you know, scrap together to have 20 minutes in front of somebody, you know. There's a lot of parallels there, and I the more I learn about things like stand-up comedy, like
I talk about that all the time with people.
Yeah, it's
so many similarities.
It's interesting, and I think on a surface level, people wouldn't kind of really connect the two, but you know, at the end of the day, I think it is the entertainment business. You know, whether it's sports, you know, you're a professional bowler, you're you know, to a degree, you're in the entertainment business there, and everybody's kind of dealing with that same burden. So you know, we've been talking about Neal Morse Band, you know, new record, August 27th, available everywhere. You know, the pre-order is up, the vinyl pre-orders are up. There's all sorts of bundles on the Neal Morse Band website. And you can check that out on the Twitter. All those links for that are going to be in the show notes for you guys and gals listening here in the Everyman podcast. Eric, what is the best way to keep up with what you're doing? You know, how can the Everyman and the Everywoman keep an eye on you?
I have my Facebook artist page, and which is, I think, facebook.com/Eric Gillette Music, or it's just Eric Gillette. I have to check that. I should know these things. YouTube for sure. I have been posting, like we talked about, covers pretty much monthly, and that's youtube.com/Eric Gillette Music and ericgillettemusic.com. And you can contact me directly through there if you wanted. And most of the news and stuff I try to post on there as well. So I think those are the main ways that you could follow along if you so dare.
I'm already in there. That's great. Now, you know, baby on the way, Neal Morse Band tour, new album on the way.
Crazy year.
Big. Nice. You've been a busy boy. What's coming down the pike for you other than not a whole lot of sleep?
Oof. Not a lot of sleep. Like I had mentioned, I guess multiple times, probably because I'm very excited about it, is this Texas 6 season 2, which will be on Paramount Plus. I believe it's going to come out in October. And so I have that on my plate along with New Child on the way next week and preparing for the tour, which will kick off after Morse Fest, which is in October. So yeah, lots going on, and looking forward to finally getting out there and playing some shows again. It feels like a eternity, but we're gonna enjoy it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm kind of got my blinders on, and it's go time to get this show out and prepare for tour and try to get a couple hours of sleep if I can.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Eric, this has been absolutely awesome conversation, and
thank you guys.
We've had a great time with you. And again, Innocence and Danger, August 27th, Inside Out Records, Neal Morse Band coming to a town near you. Eric, thank you so much, brother. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, man. See you in Philly.